much. So I think we've discussed Muskrat Lake. Is that a fair question? And I think that we've recommended we accept this modification, but you'll still want to think about it, but that's what we've put forward for you tonight. The other bullet on this slide was the ministry's, this is back to the 20-meter, 30-meter setback for buildings from water. It was proposed to be 20 meters. The province wants it to go to 30 meters. And this was always a chance to see if they would bite on the 20 meters, and they didn't. 30 meters is pretty standard across the province. And our recommendation is that this is just not a battle you may want to fight. Let's accept the 30-meter setback. This is for the buildings, by the way. Septics are 30, and the proposal was that a dwelling could be 20 meters, but the province isn't going with that.
At this point we pick our battles, I think.
So I've only, hopefully in that half an hour we'll be able to wrap up, and but we'll go as long as it takes for these last few remaining slides. So just some other things. These are sort of odds and sods. There was the ministry proposed modifications to establish a special study area for islands. OPA 11 had some policies around island development that were put in. They deleted those and put new ones in that are even more than what we wanted and were looking for. And our recommendation is just either go with what's there proposed in OPA 11, but not go with their proposal. Like this was too far. And there was another issue, the last bullet, MMEH, this is to deal with cultural heritage. The ministry modification would change the, notwithstanding any other policies of the county official plan, the parent official plan on cultural heritage, notwithstanding those, the idea of OPA 11 is that there would be policies just for whitewater around cultural and archaeological resources, and they were maybe not as, they were the local solution to the issue of working around cultural heritage and developing with those resources. And what the province ended up saying is, well, no, you not only have to go with the county policies, we're also going to require we'd also work with the policies in OPA 11. So it was both sets of policies that they wanted us to go forward with. We are only proposing the policies in OPA 11. So this is a non-starter for us as a staff. The whole idea was to move away from the regular county policies. So we recommend against this modification and deleting the thing entirely. And you will see that when we come for our 5-year review, you will see where the province is headed on this whole cultural heritage issue. So we recommend against the modification and recommend just deleting 15.9 cultural and archaeological resources altogether. You'll still have the policies in the rest of the official plan, of the county plan you have to follow, but that's... Oh, anything to do with remains, could be development of the last 100 years, could be a 1,000-year-old settlement. Important human heritage as opposed to natural heritage. So we come to sort of the end of our discussion, and our resolution on the table tonight is that staff be directed to write to the ministry to request changes to the decision on OPA 11 in accordance with the recommendations of this presentation. And what you may want to do from out of this is ponder that and come back at another point and turn your minds to it. And we're happy to do that. The other thing I might want to mention is that I would like to come back with our Director of Planning, Paul Morrow, in the back, and come and talk to you about the County of Renfrew official plan 5-year review process. And the intent was to keep these two separate, but they're now coming together because of the time frames for both projects, that we need to move certainly our county plan project along. So we'd like to come out to you in the next, relatively soon, and you can see what's coming down. The other shoe that's dropping on in terms of the county official plan, we'd like to set that up some point. Is that fair? Okay. Thank you very much.
Council would definitely be in favor of that. We are, after all, partners in all that we do, and we have very strong points that we make, but there is a possibility that the county plan and the areas are covering the same things off, and so that's a good thing to know. I agree with that, and I am sure council would be in favor of that presentation, county's plan. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.
And thank you for having Brian and myself tonight, and hopefully it's been fruitful, and I think we got covered a lot of material.
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple of questions. If you could go back to the agriculture, the proposal there about no extra, the existing agricultural
Is it this one here?
practice, I think you were talking about?
Is it the first bullet there on that page? Ministry proposed modification would permit existing and new agriculture uses in the waterfront designation?
Yes, and the new, I have issues with that, because I think that we don't need to permit that. I don't see putting new agricultural things, putting up new barns right beside waterfront. There's lots of places to put the barns on, and I look at Grand Settlement Road for instance, and there's no problem on building on the one side of it, but there's no need to build barns and that on the water side of it. So I think, yes, we need to expand, and we need to be with them and support them. But when it comes to that, I have to agree with your recommendation not to support it. So I know that there's other colleagues don't agree with me, and but I think development is and agricultural development is great, but it needs to be done in the right places, because it just turns into a bigger issue further down the line. So I think it's good planning to go with your recommendations rather than theirs, but that's just my own personal thoughts.
And I think that'll be a discussion that you folks can have. Yep.
Okay. The other one, Charles, when you talked at the very last about the you were talking about the heritage,
Yeah.
and that, and the having to do these archaeological studies. Like, I'm not a great fan of that. I think that's something that really needs to be looked at. I think there's a lot of waste of waste and frustration for developers that are involved in that. I don't know how we can do something there. And I know, like you say, it's probably we need to discuss that as well.
Okay.
But it's two things that I think anyway are in my thoughts.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, that's our presentation. Thanks again very much.
Thank you. And again, thank you. And Christine.
I'd like a little direction, if I could, please, about how you'd like to next step. What do you envision so that all 7 of you can have this conversation, or is it Brian and Charles coming back for a bit of an update and a recap about what we've accomplished tonight, and then perhaps you could go into the official plan on the county level, that update, so that you're not going back and forth? Would that work?
My take on what I believe we would be looking to do is we will have the same discussion with Doug is fairly versed on what has been presented, to discuss points like what Councillor McLaughlin has reiterated, get ourselves into a closer understanding of where we want to go. Then at that point we would ask for another meeting, presentation, whatever, and that could be tied in with the one for the county. And at that point then we will have it narrowed down to things that are of most concern or we already accept, and we could go through that fairly quick. Like, we're not fighting anything here. We just need to address it in a fashion that is going to be appeasing our population. And a lot of the questions that we have asked tonight have been the questions that we want to answer, but I still think we need to discuss it. We're short 2 councillors here. They may have things that they want to ask. One councillor, Councillor Regier, should be right up to speed on this, but the other councillor is new. and we'll have questions. So that gives us a chance, on behalf of the people, to have our own discussion. Then we would move to discussing with the county again, and as I said, that could be with their presentation for the county. And I will just look at our councillors for consensus. Is that all right, Councillor Jackson?
I guess what I'm thinking is perhaps we can lay out all the different decisions that we have to make, that the recommendations of the changes that the county is willing and both Charles and Brian are willing to go back to the table with the province, that we have to make those decisions on it, list them and vote on each one individually or a group or whatever. But I think that's important that we go through each one individually.
Okay, and that would be information, or we would do that as a council, and when we come up with the list, we would then go back to Ryan and Charles. That's your intention? That's okay. I fully agree with that. Councillor Mackay, are you agree?
I agree with it. I didn't like the way you said we
the
got
most
two short
honourable.
councillors.
Sorry.
You said we had two short councillors. I didn't like that.
We're short two councillors. Sorry. And do you agree with that, Your Honour, Reeve Miller? I don't know. It's an honour to have you as a Reeve. I'm just throwing that in there.
I agree that we have to sit down and learn about the county plan. I think we really got to take our time on this. The previous councils have had 10 years. I was thinking 8 all along till I was 10 now, Brian? And I think we really got to give this a good study. We're not planners. We don't work with it every day. However, we owe it to our residents to maybe even bring the public back in on this. I'm not happy with some things in the past to do with the committees that we had in place and how they were disbanded. Some things were not discussed that they would have liked to have discussed. The program or the application and everything went through pretty quick in 2014, a couple months prior to the election. Some people are not too happy with that either. I want to slow down. I want this council to meet and debate all this. And granted, there's lots of good in the official plan. That's not what's at question here. It's whether it's right for Whitewater, and I think we really have to study it and maybe get some more advice from some people. I'd like to get the public back involved and try to get some interest from the public and debate it and look at all options that are on the table. We did not go into the option, what if we do nothing? And I think that yet needs to be discussed. I don't want to lose what you showed us either, but we have to look at that and consider it. There are other townships that are operating on their own plan. They have reasons for that. We should be aware of what those reasons are and if they're applicable to ourselves before we sign on to something so important for the long term. So I think it should be a little slower process. We need training. We don't do this every day, Charles. Okay, that's my opinion.
Throw it out there.
Voice in my ear just mentioned an idea that Brian and I could do is prepare a draft letter for you that would be a draft response back to the province on what we've talked about tonight, based using our PowerPoint presentation plus the things you've provided us, and you could use that as something to discuss when you do get together. We need a week or two to pull that together.
No, that would be absolutely phenomenal. So if we decide to go back to the public, that's our decision, and that would be to get more questions for you guys to answer. If we do that, that's our responsibility, our decision, and we would do that as part of our getting these questions prepared for you, and that would come as a result of our debate for all of these items. And when we come back to you, as Councillor Jackson said, we should have itemized questions that are easy to answer. Christine?
Thank you. So, what I'm hearing, what I'd like to do then is schedule a planning committee meeting along with our other council and committee meetings for March 2nd, which I think will give us adequate time to review the draft response to the province that will come from Brian and Charles, and then you can have your discussion and your debate about next steps, opening it up to the public again, forming another committee, whatever it is you want to do, and then we'll have a chat about having you guys back for the county plan update. How does that sound?
Other suggestion, another voice in my ear mentioned, other options are bringing, a lot of people have ideas for me to give to you. Bring in Mr. Michalski at some point, and you bring the ministry, if we can get some ministry people from the province to explain some things.
I personally would like to have the ministry involved in a presentation or as a debate too. That sounds like an absolute wonderful idea. We did have we can have a McCluskey again. We did have him once, and I'm mostly interested in the ministry. We would like a debate with the ministry, right? Right? No, it's not a lynching mob. No.
We get this plan in action, that we can figure out who we'll try to get from the province. Yeah, thank you.
That sounds amazing. Christine.
Please just note as well that if you do invite Mr. Michalski back, there will be approximately an $1,800 price tag for him.
Yeah, that will be part of our discussion, yes.
To attend a meeting.
I will officially thank you again, and we will definitely stay in touch. We want to do, we obviously want to do some more work on our own behalf, and so at this point, as we say good night and thank you, I will continue. Moved by Dave Mackay, seconded by Charlene Jackson. Be it resolved that the council in committee adjourn the meeting of January 27, 2016 at 8:25. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.